this is the question I have, right? Because I tend to see this as a generational thing. People who are older than me, right? So older than 36.
Yes.
Let's give them 10 years older in that 46 plus range.
Okay.
And I get this sometimes
Baseball
from other people.
fans.
They look at me playing video games. I still play video games as a 36-year-old, not as much as I used to.
My brother does too.
They still look at it as something childish, right? Then you have the folks who maybe might be in my range. Some of the people, I don't think all the people, maybe look at esports as, why would somebody watch other people playing video games, right?
Yeah.
And that they get paid for it and they train and they put this. There's still this kind of stigma. I don't even know what I call it around that we look at the people who are in esports. Do you think that's changing? I feel like it's shifting, right, as we get younger and attitudes toward video games are shifting. But like, how do you feel it's changing in terms of how the league will grow, and how important is that for the league to grow?
Well, I think generationally, everything, it chips away. I remember thinking as a kid, and again, I'm 26, like, am I going to play video games my whole life? Yeah. And now what I'm realizing is I will for sure have a video game system as long as possible in my life. I'm not going to necessarily play to the level that the quantity that I played once upon a time.
Yeah, life changes that for you.
Yeah. You have other obligations in life that, come into play. But I think that, like you said, 36, it's more common to still be playing. 26, it's more common to still be playing with your friends maybe or something like that. And then 16, it's even more. And so we were talking about this before, and it's the example that I always use. I was born 93, 2006, Madden NFL Nation, starts on ESPN. I was so hyped. And it was, that sweet spot of 5:30 or something on ESPN2. It's like I'm done with homework. Like, I got to check this out before dinner.
I was never done with homework that early.
You're efficient, Jeff.
Depending on the day. Maybe I took a break.
I got home. I was watching Pokemon, bro. Like, because Pokemon came on like 4. Anyway.
But watching that, I'm like, I love Madden. Like, listen, Madden was the game in the 2000s.
Oh, yeah. They had the Madden Bowl with players playing against other players.
So I was like, I want to see the best dudes play Madden. Yeah. And every time they'd show the score and the guys having a handshake after the game or like the last play. And I'm like, wait. Now we know, being in this industry, they had a scripted for 23 minutes of television. No one was letting them put on, 4 hours of content. There was no TV channel. There was nothing to do. That was the first step. But at the time I was like, I just want to see them play. Where can I see them play? Now these kids grow up. I want to see someone playing NBA 2K. I want to see someone playing Fortnite. I want to see someone playing League of Legends right now. All right, fire up Twitch. I want to see the best highlights from the last week. All right, type it into YouTube. Like, they grow up.
Or stream it yourself.
They grow up with all of this in their ethos that we didn't, in our 26, 25, what are you, 25?
25, yeah.
We just missed it, I feel like.
Yeah.
We just missed that boom. So I understand it, and I understand that, like, for these guys, the same way that we grew up watching sports or watching movies or watching anything that you could snap your fingers and do, that's what they've grown up with.
Yep.
So for esports, that's why it's growing. That's why it's such a common thing, and people don't necessarily understand it who don't have the access that they had, because they can't put themselves in their teenage mind. Like, even if let's say you're 31 and you loved Mario Tennis or something at the time, or on Nintendo 64, it's like, maybe if Twitch was around and that was the game, people would have been popping with it.
You know what?
And Twitch kind of was around back then. It was just Justin.tv? Isn't that what it was 10 years ago?
Yeah.
But I remember, it's funny that you bring this up, because I remember watching, I think their names were New Legacy, and I think I still follow them on YouTube, but they were these guys who were very early in this, and they used to stream basically WWE gameplay, whether it was old games or whatever, but they were hilarious. Like, they were just funny, doing dumb stuff all the time, and I was in high school. I remember watching them stream an entire season of Here Comes the Pain, where they were using, I think it was Charlie Haas, and it was just funny and ridiculous. And there, the whole thing, there was a chat room. They would play until, however late it was, 3 a.m. and things like that. And I remember actually watching this because I'm in high school, and I'm like, other than play basketball, I wasn't doing much else.
Well, see, I think that's the point Jeff makes, right? Like, no matter how old you are, whether you're a video gamer or not, look, when I was 16, I spent tons of time playing video games. Through college, I spent as much time as I can with my roommates. We were playing Madden, and so that
college
was kind of
the peak of
your video game, right? Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And I played a lot of Madden in that time, and then I think like shortly after college, that's when the Madden show came out. And I still watched that at that time because I found it fascinating to watch I was like, yo, like I want to see the best people play Madden, right? So I think it's very interesting. The other
and spoiler alert: if you saw Ballers, esports had a role in that final season as well.
I didn't watch the final season.
I'm like 4 to 5 episodes in, but I was gonna say there's an.
Well, that's not like a real spoiler, but you'll see what actually happens. But esports does get involved in even that.
There's an Entourage episode from I think 2004, 2005, where Jerry Ferrara's character Turtle plays in a Fight Night tournament. So that's that goes back to
now you want to get me hype about a game.
Now because tournaments at that time when I was graduating college, tournaments were still out there existing. You had Madden tournaments. Yeah. Obviously, I'm a Street Fighter player too. A lot of Street Fighter tournaments have been going on
back
for
in
years.
the day, Pokemon had these tournaments. This was in like the early 2000s or the mid 2000s.
People have always been playing
would
for
go
money.
to like the Pokemon store in the city. They would get cards and play each other. And Yu-Gi-Oh had tournaments.
It was harder to put on. Because you had to get the equipment.
It was even more niche.
That's a good point.
It was even more niche than it is now. But now with social media, and because that's the demographic that's really going to utilize social media to push these things, now you're seeing it grow in the way that it should.
So another generational question I have, Jeff, is what I find interesting too about, because you do stuff with the 2K League, right? Especially for you, because of your age. You're of the age where
I'm washed.
No, you're not washed, man. You're of the age where, for you, 2K has always been that basketball game, right?
Kind of.
Well,
I think it's.
Are you guys old enough that when
NBA Live was the game in the 2000s?
It was the game.
It was the game. And so for me, going to school in 2011, that was when I shifted to 2K.
That's when I shifted.
I shifted earlier
with Jordan on the cover.
So I actually shifted earlier because the first game I ever had for the original Xbox, because I first got my original Xbox in 2004. I was 10 years old. Was NBA Live 2004 with Vince Carter on the cover. I had NBA Live up until 2007, and then I remember seeing that 2K was cheaper. Chris Paul was on the cover, who I really liked because I'm short, and the game, the reviews were just better, and I was like, NBA Live always had glitches, so I was like, let me try this out.
Yeah,
so 2K8,
I switched that same year as you.
And then it was right after that, I think I noticed the shift when maybe it was 2K10, because that was the Kobe year, and that was the 10-year anniversary, and Kobe had the golden cover and all this stuff. I think that was when it really started to shift.
I've always wondered that, because you did play some live, and the reason that it popped in my mind for this question, I remember the last time, I can't remember the year right now, the last time the All-Star Game was here in New York, I went to cover
2015
an event in Brooklyn for News 12, and they had like this lounge. They had like a gaming lounge where people could come and play. And I'll never forget this. I walk into the lounge, and there are 2 TVs. Now, there's an Xbox. There's 4 TVs: Xbox, PlayStation, and one has live and one is 2K.
Oh, I know where you're going.
Whether it was the Xbox with the 2K or the PlayStation 4 with the 2K, everybody were at those, and nobody was at NBA Live. And for me, it was just like, as somebody,
I've seen that
Live
at the
was
NBA
my first
store.
basketball game. NBA Live 95. I'm dating myself here. NBA Live 95 on the Super Nintendo was my first basketball game. To see nobody play it, and now that 2K is kind of just this brand that's around the league, like, is there even an NBA? I'm asking a question. Is there an NBA Live league?
No.
No.
NBA Live is not even coming out this year. They released a statement saying that they're not going to come out.
I didn't even know that.
They postponed the release, and then they just canceled.
But everybody is. Wow. There was a year also, I think it was 2011 or whatever, that. This is where the shift really, like, you really notice it, and it might have been that year, because I remember there was a demo that came out for NBA Live. Kevin Durant was scheduled to be on the cover. In the demo, you could shoot around with Kevin Durant. The song that was playing the entire time was The Plan by J. Cole, still one of his best songs, most underrated songs. The game never came out, and they kept pushing it back. I don't think the game never came out, or it may have come out on mobile only. That was it, and that's when 2K was over, son.
So you just answered a couple questions, because I did not know that Live was done. Didn't know that, and it's so lively.
But people think that they're probably gearing up for the NCAA return, because now that there's those rules, and
they got to do something. But how strong is the 2K brand right now that it has its own league? Yeah. Kids have been immersed in this for a long time, right? There are kids who've grown up where it's just been 2K for them.
Yeah. So first of all, back to the original, the Live in the 2000s and stuff. It was so easy. I think for me, it was so easy. it made my life easier to tell my mom, like, anything EA Sports, that was what I wanted. You know, I think it was like, and people had that EA Sports, like EA Sports dominated so many of the sports titles that it was so easy to just like be an EA Sports lifer and like get the whole, basically have the whole everything around. But then there was this almost EA Sports and Take-Two Interactive went to battle. If you remember, Take-Two purchased the whole baseball rights, and that's MVP Baseball all of a sudden, which was like the greatest baseball game, was done, and they tried to do college baseball. No one knew who college baseball players were. That didn't work. So, and that, by the way, Take-Two doesn't even do a baseball game. It's only MLB The Show, which is only on PlayStation. So really, there's no game.
The greatest baseball game ever.
So you have that. You have EA Sports kind of runs 2K out of the NFL market. Remember the TO cover, the ESPN NFL.
That
2K5,
is still the greatest football game ever. I don't care what anybody says. RIP NFL 2K5.
So they go to bat.
Better than Madden. It's not.
2K5 is better than every Madden that has come out.
It's not.
I'll fight you.
They're tugging back and forth.
Yes.
In both of those. Yes. And the college games. They both had college games going back and forth.
Yeah, 2K, yeah. And EA Sports got that too, because then March Madness became NCAA basketball 09 and 10.
With basketball, what I think where Take-Two gets a lot of credit is they recognize the online element becoming a bigger thing, and they recognize that the way to grab the community was to create a community. And what they did was they created, eventually they created sort of ways that you could play 5-on-5 Pro-Am mode, which is what the league is based on. So people started creating their own teams the same way in like Call of Duty, you're creating your team that you're playing with.
Right.
People started doing that for NBA 2K. And then around that 2015 time, which NBA Live didn't have a game one year like you were talking about, they ended up coming back with a game. They introduced what they call the community, with the park, and you can basically create a character that you're showing off to the world, whether it's what he's wearing, what his traits are and stuff, beyond just you're my player that's local on your own. You're showing your friends who your player is, and you're going around to all of these, literally a digital community. And when they did that, that's when I think that's what makes the league possible, because people just that's how they find their friends. They're like hanging out in the virtual community, and it goes so much further than being just a basketball game. And that's why you're able to build an esport, because there's so much loyalty and camaraderie amongst people who don't even know each other, that now you have this grand thing that NBA Live just didn't invest in. That's
great. And I think it's interesting, because I haven't even thought about the online.
Let me say this
how
too.
That was a downfall of NBA Live.
And I had so NBA Live, when they would come out, they would do this thing after, probably when they get to Christmas, you could find the game for like $3. So, and I'm not even joking, it was like $3.99.
You're talking about recently?
Yeah. This is recent. This is very recent. So I bought last year's because they had the WNBA before 2K also added that element. So now it's really over for them, right? So I got that for the WNBA feature. And I noticed that they have an online thing as well, but it's not nearly as elaborate. Like 2K has My Team and all this stuff, and people love that as well.
They bought things like they got the rights to use Rucker Park in their game, and 2K doesn't have that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
But was like, is that enough for people to buy NBA
They got
Live?
Dykeman also. But no one...
No, because what it comes down to is the gameplay in 2K has been better for quite some time.
Yes.
There's been less glitches. So anything that Live is added on, or EA's added on, has always seemed pretty gimmicky. And for me, when I made the switch, and I love basketball games. I've always loved it since a kid. It was about the gameplay, and the gameplay was just so much tighter that's why I switched. And I think when you add the other stuff, and as they expanded with the way social media and things were expanding and creating the community in the parks, you're right. That had a huge impact in it just taking off and going elsewhere. So like esports, especially around basketball gaming, it's huge now. And I used to sit and watch. This is why I'll tell people who are anti-esports and try to criticize it. People of my generation, even older, you would still sat around and watch other people play games. All you're doing now is watching it either online, or you might go to a stadium or arena and watch this being played. And it's not that bad if the competition or quality of play is good. So, I grew up in an era where people were going to see Street Fighter. People play Street Fighter at the arcade and watch people play. I used to crowd around and watch it for hours when I didn't have money. So you will do it when you can even afford it and pay the money. And I think people are kind of anti it, but they don't realize they've kind of been doing some elements of voyeurism in gaming sports for quite some time.
Well, on that point, and also why people, I think, are so negative about esports, I think there's a group of people out there that are like, people need to get off the couch. You know, this is just like, esports is just people staying on their couch and not doing physical activities. First of all, how much exercise can you do in one day? Like, people aren't just out there. They're not professional athletes doing 5 hours of exercise every day.
Right. Do 45 minutes and you're good.
So this is an activity. This is an activity that also, for a lot of people, has taught them friendship, camaraderie, teamwork, and things along those lines. And the story I always go back to is a player who was on Knicks Gaming. He's right now he'll re-enter the draft. His name's Idris the Goat. He was growing up originally in Detroit, and he wrote about when the Knicks were in the finals in season 1. New York Times has all his quotes that he basically said, like, video games. His parents got him a video game system, and he got it, and he was in his basement, and playing video games kept him off the street in inner city Detroit. And he's like, so anyone that wants to bash me for basically not being outside, it's like, video games saved my life in that sort of way. Yeah. And that's where I think people just don't understand what an outlet video games provide as an activity, especially in the inner city, and especially because of that NBA element. The NBA 2K League tilts definitely with a lot of kids who come up from very diverse backgrounds.